Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rocio Mejia. I am the assistant planner here at the city. We will go ahead and start PRC. And just for your knowledge, this meeting is recorded. Welcome, everyone. We are going over PRC for today, Wednesday, December 11th of 2024. We will go ahead and start with roll call for city staff. Again, my name is Rocio Mejia, the assistant planner, serving as chairperson today. We have Jeff O'Neill, city planner, online. We have Claudia Calderon, community development director and zoning administrator, online. We have Garrett Keller, planning technician. We have Javier Sanchez, engineering and project management director. For fire, we have Clayton Dignam, our fire marshal. And this is Cheyenne, right?
Yes.
Cheyenne Kyle, fire inspector. For building, we have James Wickersham, our chief building official. For public works, we have Robert Alvarez, field service manager. And Brianna Spry, field services superintendent for refuse. And I believe that is everyone.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, I'm sorry. And then Joe Baeza, field services superintendent for streets. Okay. Next, we will begin with oral communications. This is the opportunity for our public members to address the committee on any matter related to project review. Is there anyone online that would like to provide any comments for oral communications?
Wait 1 second. This guy.
Okay. Hearing there are no comments from the public, we'll begin with our first item. Our first item is PRC 2024-038 for Anytime Fitness. The applicant is proposing a change in occupancy for Anytime Fitness from retail sales to commercial entertainment for a fitness center located at 924 West Henderson Avenue. The property is zone PD, plan development, and has a general plan land use designation of retail centers. Okay, so we will begin with this item. I'm sorry, I went a little bit off. So for this PRC item, the planning comments that we have, they're very generic. They are just basically. Okay. They are basically to comply with chapter 21 of the development ordinance. For signs, any proposed signs would need to comply with chapter 305. Allowable signs in the retail centers are awning and canopy, marquee, monument, freestanding, projecting, wall, and window signs. Retail centers are allowed 3 square feet of signage for every linear foot of building frontage. In addition, all the signs shall comply with the Porterville Town Center Master Sign Program 2014-002, and we can provide a copy of that to the applicant. In addition, temporary signs shall comply with section 305-11A for temporary signs. If there will be any trash enclosures, they will need to comply with PDO section 300.13. Are there any questions or comments for planning in regards to these comments? No? If there are no comments or questions, we can move on to engineering with Javier.
Right, thank you, Rocio. Is for this project, is it just getting moved into and maybe some, or is there construction plan to take place?
Yep, minor construction inside. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna mention to Javier that there are plans that have been submitted. They kind of got done before realizing that they needed to come to PRC.
Mhm.
So that's the submittal right there.
There's a sign plan as well.
Mhm.
Or a sign
sign permit.
permit.
Do we have an idea of valuation? Or is it more just equipment?
Probably more just the equipment and some. I mean, they're adding a few restrooms and those walls right there to make it the way the TI looks.
Oh, okay.
Thomas, you're representing?
Yep, I'm representing for Anytime Fitness and Omega Fitness.
Okay. Did you have an idea on the project evaluation of this?
Yeah, I think very similar to what you said. I think a lot of it's going to be mostly equipment and then something, build an office and bathrooms, I think, like a manager office. But that's primarily the majority of the work.
Okay. Yeah, so it should be pretty minimal. And the reason I asked is anytime the valuation of a project is over 28,000 and change, we start looking at public improvements. So we'd likely have no comments on this one.
Are there any questions from the applicant's engineering before we move on? No? Okay, then we can go ahead and continue with the fire comments.
So the occupancy change from an M, which is a mercantile, to an A3, which covers the gym, is an occupancy that triggers the installation of fire sprinklers throughout the fire area because the fire area exceeds 12,000 square feet. The fire area is the entire building, not just the suite. And those buildings, they are connected, they don't have adequate separation. So it'll require the installation of fire sprinklers and a monitoring system with a fire department connection within 50 feet of a fire hydrant. So that'll be the big issue that's going to happen there as far as the fire goes. In addition to that, we're looking at fire extinguishers to meet the spacing requirements and mounting heights for the fire code. Knox access, if there's already a Knox box on the building, we can just add your keys to that. If there is not a Knox box there, we would have to have you add one, and then ensuring that your address is properly posted and contrasting, the numbers contrast with the background. So.
Understood.
Okay, thank you, Clayton. Did you have any comments for fire? For the applicant?
Not so far. I have some notes of what we need, so I think.
This is a different.
This is
one.
a-
Oh, okay.
Okay, Center? Okay, this is the one on West Henderson.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
this
sorry,
is
you looked straight at me. I was
Yeah.
like, I got you.
We get to yours, I'll go
Yeah.
over the
Okay,
stuff with yours.
sweet, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we can move on with building comments?
Like I mentioned, the plans have already really been submitted. So for building at this time, there's just
Okay.
plan review comments.
Okay, thank you. For field services?
No comments from refuse.
And water department? Thank you, Brianna.
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, so I think that concludes, that's all the departments, right?
Joe,
It's Joe that I.
Yeah,
forgot
Joe's
he was
here,
there.
yeah.
Sorry, Joe, did you have any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes this project review. Thank you for bringing us this project and we look forward to working with you.
Of course. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, and we will provide these comments in a written letter to you within about 2 weeks turnaround.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Thomas.
Appreciate We're excited.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number 2, which is PRC 2024-039 for Mavericks Porterville Suites, 416 South Main Street. The applicant is proposing a change in occupancy for Mavericks Porterville Suites from automotive vehicle service and repair, minor to instructional services, to be located at 416 South Main Street. The property is currently zoned downtown mixed use and has a general plan land use designation of downtown mixed use, and it is in the downtown overlay. Do you have it? Okay, so the site was previously occupied by Porterville Tire and Automotive Repair. And this was in last use in 2014, right? The applicant is proposing to split the existing building into 4 suites. Suite A, 7,670 square feet. Suite B, 1,758 square feet, which is proposing this instructional services for Pilates. Suite C is 1,270 square feet. Suite D, 2,485 square feet. Okay, so all facade renovations shall comply with downtown design guidelines for planning. Specifically to chapter 202.04 supplemental regulations. And this is for the ground floor windows and building entrances in the downtown design. And we can provide you with the downtown design guidelines. If you want to take a look, we have the downtown design guidelines, which shows the downtown design guidelines for that zone district. So like I mentioned, the downtown design guidelines shall comply with that section for the windows entrances, and that means that they need to be ground floor windows and for the building entrances. So any changes to the exterior building material and color shall comply with section 202.04 J. It's 1E for the downtown design guidelines. We will provide you those links to those sections. A unified palette of materials and colors shall be used on all sides of the buildings, regardless of the orientation.
Can I intervene real quick?
Yes.
The building has been in existence
Mhm.
for 50+ years.
Mhm.
So a lot of times when we're talking about, because I already kind of know where this is going,
Mhm.
and there's windows. And I'm already thinking numbers in my head, because there's windows that are already pre-existing that were broken or whatnot. And they're already like in a position, but they're just like right there.
Mhm.
And it almost seems like you guys are wanting it to come all the way down, right?
Yes, so at any
So-
time the code applies when you're making changes, then it triggers the downtown design.
These buildings are made out of like 24 inches of like a block.
Mhm.
So this would be like, just each window would be a massive, like you just starting off with this is a massive hit, because to get somebody to come and cut this out and put a new window,
Mhm.
just one window itself, it wouldn't even be feasible.
So I think, so if you're, these windows right
Yeah,
here,
those-
not
those
what we're
ones like
talking
that.
about?
Yeah.
We're
Those are
talking
normal windows.
about, we're talking
So
about
this
the
is
new,
for the renovation part.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
those are the ones I'm thinking, oh, okay.
So right now, we're only focusing on the changes
The tenant.
to the tenant improvements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the small windows. I was gonna say, wow. like,
No, so right now, because of the
Okay,
change in occupancy, we're focusing specifically on suite
Oh, nice.
B, is it suite B?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Suite B.
Oh, okay, thank you.
or any,
Yeah, that's all I was curious.
Uh-huh.
Like,
But Suite B,
Uh-huh.
Suite B is
Yeah,
Or-
I get it.
Yeah,
Right where the big
so
door.
then it would be the facade to,
But
Oh,
to let you guys know, when you were out there, Gary, those,
anywhere else where
Mhm.
there's.
where there
Yeah.
was changes.
Changes,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
which is all 4 of those roll-ups.
yeah. So any of the roll-up doors, when you put the windows in and box them in with stuff, they just need to make sure that they comply
comply
with
with
the
that.
downtown.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
There's storefront and they go all the way down.
Yeah, they don't meet that.
Oh, okay.
They don't meet that
criteria.
downtown.
Yeah, so that's the part where the main changes are gonna have to happen are on these. At this time, you guys aren't really gonna edit the exterior, you're just gonna be doing the interior.
Mhm.
For
Well,
the suite B.
I don't know, we haven't seen plans.
Okay, so when we see the plans. But we're just mainly, our big focus was on the windows that are
The
already
changes
there.
that were made.
Yeah, that stuff is gonna for sure gonna have to comply, and then once we get plans, we'll have more
Complying which
comments.
way? What is
As
it?
far as the
downtown.
downtown design
So,
guidelines.
So Alex, the four roll-up doors to where you had went and put the glass and.
It's just not, I'm gonna abort this. For sale, done. It is not gonna work, cause this is gonna be extremely costly. I mean, when, I understand you guys are following rules in the sense of a business and everybody trying to comply with, you know, the way things are done, right? But this is already something that's, you know, in a sense pre-existing, so what's gonna happen is this would take us to the red, where we'd have massive amount of losses to.
The big
like,
problem was that you
it's what we're-
started doing this
No,
before you came to PRC.
It just wouldn't work for this reason, because I was more worried about the stuff that, you know, the rabbit out of hat. So I was like, okay, let's just make this building look a little bit better. But if it's gonna get to that extent, I can't even do it. It's just get someone
Well,
out
to make
to
it-
make it work. Cause I couldn't foresee it. Like, I'm not 24-hour fitness. We're not at that level. We're just a little mom and pop. So it just wouldn't work. And why would we even waste more
And
time?
that's why when,
Cause I just have to rip what's out there now and then just boom, for sale, vámonos, afuera. I couldn't deal with that because it's just not gonna work. Because it just, we wanna make portable community better by being simple. And I think that if we make things harder, portable community would never get better.
Well, there's,
It
but
does never
there's
get
trigger points that come in, right?
No, and I understand, that's why, no one, the trigger points,
Or the
they
change
work
in
for like
occupancy.
Walmart Distribution Center, Target Corporation, big companies that can take that type of punch. Like a little guy like me, I'm not gonna be able
Yeah,
to absorb that
unfortunately,
kind
we
of punch.
just, you know.
It's just too much.
it's Whatever triggers it, it doesn't matter, you know, who the applicant is.
I know it doesn't matter, and that's
Yeah.
the thing, it just wouldn't work.
And that's the
There's a lot
bummer
of
is
people
when
don't wanna
Cruz and
follow
I-
the rules. That's why nobody wants to follow the rules, because of the fact that this kind of stuff.
But-
it's like,
but when Cruz and I stopped before our last
Right.
visit and said, don't do
Just do
anything
massive
until you
upgrade.
come to PRC. And then we show up and there's
Yeah.
4 new
Yeah.
storefronts.
Yeah, it was,
So that's not on us.
And part of it could have been helped, you know, with maybe phasing, like first phase, second phase, to save you the money. Then once you get the tenants, you have that. And also-
the thing is, we're trying to like attract somebody.
Yeah.
To the buildings, because it wasn't, it just looked horrible, so like, that's what the idea was, and I said, okay, we'll do this part, do the inside, and I get it up to speed, it just wouldn't work, it's just, I don't know, it's just, as the business people, we've heard all the horror stories from like, you know, 50, 60 different people, so it's like, we're just like, we've had people tell us they're tied up, and they've been tied up for, you know, months, years. I've had people tell me, yeah, we sold that project, oh, we got out, so it's just like, it's an ongoing thing, and I just said, I think if we work things, we're more simple approach with business owners trying to, you know, start something, I think we're gonna find more success in the community. I think that's where it's, at the
Yeah,
end of the day,
unfortunately, we can't change the code the way, you know.
it's just, I don't think it's a code, but I think it's more of an ego at the end, it's, at the end, we're.
Well, no, that's the code. That's not an ego. That's the
Yeah,
code.
it's,
Because I'm pretty sure that if I was to go through every single case by case, I would prove everybody wrong in this case. I'd say, look, this guy didn't, this guy did, this guy got picked on, this guy didn't. It's like a game. And I feel like it's just what was done wrong. I mean, the storefronts are there, they look great. I think they would do really well. The little place is gonna look nice. And we're gonna, you know, bring something to the town.
Are you saying the code is the game?
No, I'm saying not everybody goes by this game, Mayor.
Can I,
It's-
can I
people are getting
interject,
picked
just
on.
ask a quick question? So for example, on storefronts, let's just. and-
It's just too.
And I understand each project, it is what it is. I understand, certain things were done on this. It had to stop, like you said. We had to get this submitted in. But for example, if you take a building, let's just say, I don't know what it's called, and I apologize, right off of all of the main, the big, I think there's a bank there.
Where the hotel used to be.
Yes, that one. Now, that one has storefront from floor to bottom
Oh, are you talking about main athletics?
in that whole corner. So that one is a storefront from top to bottom, which is similar to this.
No, it's not similar, it's exact.
So, okay,
Exact to the T, 100 million%.
my question would be, being that it's still gonna be, not necessarily in the section where it's, where you try to do a historical
But
standpoint.
understanding the building that you're using an example is not an existing and non-conforming building. That building, the Porterville Hotel was torn down, completely demolished. That building was built new
Okay,
to meet these guys.
so only older buildings.
So any new
No, so this
development
does
or any,
comply with our downtown design guidelines. See, they have the bulkhead and stuff. And then they also have the awnings over them. There's a lot of different elements that they've met with the
there's
downtown design
different
guidelines.
ways to get the same.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, if Alex is wondering about the windows, or if they can stay and just add the bulkheads, change the awnings, you know, aesthetically add something to it, but keep the windows. That's where I'm trying to figure out, to try to merge everyone on the same,
To follow the guidelines,
Yeah.
but still keep that.
so
I
is
think
that,
it's for the designer to look at the
Yeah.
guidelines and present a project that says,
That-
I've looked
that
at the
meets those
guidelines,
guidelines.
I've looked at the building. I think this is what's gonna be acceptable.
got it, and I agree, but I think at the point where we're at with this, and correct me if I'm wrong, was, let's get something in here. One was, all of the aesthetic stuff can be added to it. It can be stucco, you know, whatever, brick, whatever it needs to be. But at the point where this was at, I think what I understood out there was get a PRC in. Let's
Well,
start.
I'd like to start with PRC because before you start spending money, we want you to know where your money should be best spent.
You'll get the comments from all the departments and it'll help you make
And that's, I
your
agree,
project a
because
reality.
what was said right now was the design should be all done, which is no, you can't have the design done until, you know, this is what we have right now. You're gonna let us know exactly what guidelines we're gonna have to match, which is this. But I'm trying to figure out, so Alex can understand is, I don't know if he's thinking what he's already put into this, which, you know,
Mhm.
should have, could have not done it, we're here. But if he's understanding that all those windows need to be torn out, or we're just gonna have to add some lipstick and, you know, makeup on the outside around it to create that look.
You'll have,
that you're looking
yeah,
for.
basically you'll have to have that look, right, but it'll still need to.
Does that make
comply with
sense?
Your building code too, right?
Alex?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, so we either gonna,
Just be clear, we never said that they were gonna have to get ripped out. We're just saying
Mhm.
that.
That's where-
The way they are
Yeah.
right now, they don't meet the code.
the windows, or,
I'm not sure how they look, but I believe they replaced the garage.
yeah, there's storefronts similar to what you had just showed me.
Doors are
So-
still there.
The door's still
The
there?
road's still there.
Okay.
And part of that's gonna be getting in the building permit. Like, we're not
Yeah.
gonna sit here and say, yes, it's approved, not approved.
No, yeah, you'll have to meet the
We're
certain.
gonna have to look at a
building
building
codes.
permit
Yeah.
and check it out. We're just letting you know what the design guidelines are,
So when,
what you're gonna need to comply with.
so when the business opens, then the roll-up door goes up and all you see go front, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing's been changed
So
structurally.
the doors are there more for security purposes now,
Right.
at the end of the
Yes.
day, to roll them down.
Yeah, because I mean, unfortunately, as you go further, you know, south, it changed a little bit. But I'm just, I interjected just to try to figure out if we're going in the right direction, and if Alex, like you said, if he understood that part, or he misunderstood that he's gonna have to tear all those
Do
windows
do
out.
they have to have something under the windows?
Yeah, that's part of the code. That it's.
But
the
what
whole-
about, like you said, what about Main and Olive? They go all the way down.
I don't know when that roof is.
And I would, and like you said, I completely understand you're saying that's a brand new building,
Mhm.
100%, I know that. But when you take this section from Henderson to Main,
Yeah, that.
that's
Yeah,
all
Main
historical.
Athletics has those windows all the way down. I work there
Mhm.
and I mean, they've been shattered a couple times now, by homeless people, actually. And they go all the way down.
Yeah,
So they're floor to ceiling, so, and,
Here's showing different on the template.
yeah, the template shows it, and I saw it, and I actually, I'm curious, and I didn't want to ask now, I can always ask later. does that actually, it doesn't fall under the historical section of,
We don't have a historical.
no?
No, it's the
So,
downtown overlay,
Downtown, but how does the downtown split? Downtown means downtown, and I'm not arguing, I'm just,
We can
Thinking
provide
out
you a
loud.
link to the map and it shows you exactly where
Those
it goes all the
I
way.
think it falls outside, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this one is
That.
specifically downtown south of Olive. The project that we're currently reviewing. But it's an area of downtown. It's not necessarily like just, like the
Yeah.
immediate downtown.
Yeah,
There's a map.
We can provide you the map or you can pull it up right now. If
like
you
the
like.
internal. We're not the internal, the external.
And this is online on our
Yeah,
website, so you
I
can,
remember seeing that and you have the shades of color.
right.
And for some reason in my head, I saw that it changed.
Yes,
Once you
so
got to a certain section.
Yes, so the overlay will show in a different color. You can look at the zoning and general plan land use as well. (416) South Main.
And I believe isn't the Tulare County Public Defender's Office owned by the county?
That may be correct, and that brings another layer of issues where the county technically does not have to follow the city's rules on buildings that they own.
I agree.
Which they basically say we're a higher level of building. Sorry about
That
that.
Yeah,
That happens, that's the reality.
yeah.
There's a couple
So,
buildings.
all of the purple is
It's in
downtown,
Oh, wow.
so. Yeah, same name.
Cause you have another one
There's
that
three
shows,
buildings next to Main Street Athletics that go all the way down to. I'll point them out right now. I seen them right now when they're zooming in.
They'll be part of it also.
okay, I apologize. I didn't see this,
No,
the
it's
purple
okay.
one. I saw another one that
Yeah,
showed,
you can select the different layers.
okay.
He could very well too be talking about the actual graphic that's in the downtown guidelines that shows in this area where it's
A letter with the 2 weeks.
kind of a rose
Yeah, probably.
And all of this stuff
and
should
then there's
be,
orange and other colors around it.
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm referring to.
if you were looking for.
Oh, like the actual images, right?
Yeah. That one was a little bit different. That's why I was like, okay.
Yeah, always use the map, so you can actually select the property. Like, Garrett, go ahead and select that, and then it shows you us. Just go to the next, it's really slow here,
Interesting,
Darren.
so.
You can move to the next, page when it allows them to, and it'll tell you there, so you don't have to go based on the colors.
Okay,
It'll specifically call out which zone it's in and if there's any overlays.
There's
So,
downtown
right
mixed use.
So that one is, and then the overlay, is it on?
No,
No.
it's not.
So
Okay.
if you select the overlay, then it'll have another window where it shows that information.
got it.
If, would you guys be willing to work with us if I was able to show you guys 5 other photos of 5 other buildings?
The issue is,
doesn't-
the issue about other buildings is we don't know when those were approved. Right? They may have been approved before this was adopted. They may be existing non-conforming. Many businesses, like for my code, a lot of businesses after the 3-year cycle of the fire code is up and the new fire code is adopted, all those old buildings are existing non-conforming, but I can't make them until they change the occupancy, come to the new code.
But I know you guys exercise your power. You guys have tremendous power as city leaders. And I know you guys can sometimes look at things from a different perspective.
That would be the council that would make that decision to override the code.
No, I
Yeah,
know,
Garrett,
in a sense,
real quick, like, yeah, to touch on that real quickly. If somebody comes before the PRC and before staff, the guidelines say these guidelines shall be applied in all of the downtown districts. We don't have any authority to waiver from that. To go off what Garrett was saying, if there is a particular issue that you have with the the guidelines, the city council is the only entity at the city that they can't even provide a waiver or variance from it. They can change it if that's requested, and it's a process to change it. But nobody in this meeting has the authority to say, no, you don't have to comply with this. So that there are different ways, like Rocio is starting to talk about, where we can help you figure out different methods to comply with the guidelines. But nobody here has the authority to decide not to apply any of the standards that are in the guidelines.
So I guess I'll just ask the question. That way, I mean, you guys are busy, everyone's busy, so. Right now, we're looking at this, the facade of the building. The facade of the building needs to meet the downside guidelines, which could be a lot of the architectural gingerbread that you put on buildings to continue this landscape. It's not necessarily the fact that the windows were installed there that don't meet it. And I think, does that make sense? You understand that part, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so to just still continue this, you don't want to continue with adding the additional, let's just say, can I write on this? Yeah. So let's say here, they're wanting some type of brick or something to continue with this look, or it's some type of a awning that comes up here.
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about here, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think that's where it was misunderstood. It was like, okay, you're gonna have to rip all that stuff out. But now we're just talking about,
Oh, okay, I get it.
some
There's ways
gingerbread.
to make it work so that it complies with the.
What we're doing is basically taking the onus of putting it back on you and your designer to say,
Yeah.
hey, these are what the guidelines are. Submit us a plan that shows that
Oh,
you're
okay.
meeting these guidelines, that we can review it for approval.
Well, essentially do like a checklist, right? So
Okay,
does that
make it
comply? And
sense
then
of-
there's options of
So
making
for
it.
example, you deal with tiles, tiles,
Mhm.
you probably sell tiles out there that look exactly
Cause I
like the
think the
brick.
awning looks cool.
Mhm.
All that
So the
stuff.
brick, you can probably say, I know where they saw that brick, I'll buy that
Mhm.
brick, it's a facade, the same
That
way
makes
to
sense.
apply,
Oh, okay,
it's a
yeah.
veneer.
Yeah,
We apply it there, then we do a couple awnings and maybe some wall
It's just-
sconces.
and it's a personal problem. I'm sorry, guys. And I don't mean it like, it has nothing to do with you guys. You guys live your life. When you do a project like this, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of expenses,
Right.
and it's crazy because you're just like, I'm trying to make this all happen, but at the same time, you're trying to do the right thing too. So we're like balancing both, both sides of the spectrum. It has nothing to do with you guys. You guys can care less. 'Cause
Or
you're like,
help to try and help
a
you make
problem
that
right there.
project happen.
Exactly.
That's
And
why we're
I know
here.
you guys are like, that's your problem, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's a lot of people that try to bring stuff and we're trying to make things happen. I'm trying to get her to be, happy with the space.
But we're here to help you to make it happen.
We want it, we
So-
want it. And I like how you pointed that out. We can just add the stuff that needs to be added. To make compliant.
And Garrett, if you go back to the furniture spot right next to Maine Athletics, theirs is not as high as the next door,
I
so
like
like,
how old that is. though.
and it's super old, yeah.
Yeah,
So we don't probably
But
have
the
to even
building
go.
between
haven't made
there,
any
so that building between there where Treasures is,
Yeah,
that was an existing building that didn't get torn down with the other project. And when their project came in, they had to comply with the guidelines at that time. They put the brick underneath the windows. You've got the windows, you've
The
got
top.
the entrance, you've got that little, thing on
The
the top.
gingerbread on top. that-
Yeah, right.
so
So
essentially, how much does he have to add on to meet that requirement of that guideline?
We
will get
that link later after.
Oh,
well, and you'll look at this and your designer will come up with that, right? So JR's furniture, right? Perfect example, existing non-conforming use until they change. Once they change,
Then
that
it'll be
has to
triggered.
change.
okay.
so let's say they want to split that up, they're gonna have to submit it, and they're gonna say, okay, now that we're here, we're gonna have to do this.
Right.
Match it. So,
I'm just trying to, look, if the real end of this is, I'm trying to avoid unnecessary expenses, things that
Yeah.
matter, at the end of the day, if something looks good, but I know there's also some rule that we have to play. And that's pretty much it, but just trying to keep things real simple and clean,
yeah, so this here, once again, to just kind of reiterate, it was just, let's get something in here,
This is for you guys to get the standards, so then you
Yeah,
can
that
come
way-
up with a new plan.
It's here, and then we come back, and then he can make the decision from there. Once we meet that criteria, look at it, general contractors are here and say it's gonna be this much, and then from there he can decide, no, it's too much, we gotta stop. Or, you know what, yeah, it's feasible, because somebody else approached me, they want this and this, and let's move forward and we'll go to step 2. So, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure, I kind of thought he didn't understand that part, and now that we're clear, so
Thank you.
I'll let you
The
continue.
building I'm talking about, it's not your furniture, it's the CSEC. That's all slammed all over to the ground, but yeah, they did that whenever they did that, it doesn't matter, I'm not.
Which, that part, you're fine.
More on the side, to the other side.
More north,
Yeah. They have a couple doors that go all the way down, but it's not.
Proteus is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
produce, it's not a big deal. I don't wanna get into this political stuff, but like those two, boom, boom, but whatever. It's just, I just wanna be good to you guys and you guys be happy with what we're doing and we wanna follow the rules and do things right way. So at the end of the day, we wanna make sure you guys are happy with what's going on.
We're not saying that you have to do exactly what is there. It's gotta, if it can meet the code, if you find a creative way to meet the standards that are in the code, then we're open to
Is this a
that. It
minimum?
doesn't have to all look
Just for
cookie
the window.
cutter, the exact same.
There's always so many.
Cause it also
ways
make
to
it look ugly,
work
that's
out.
what I'm worried about. That's kind of my concern, is cause if there's an expense, there's an expense, but it will also make it look even uglier.
And that's
And what it
fine.
looks like right now, yeah, right now it looks super clean, boom, and then all of a sudden we start adding some tacky shit. Just to meet the code, and then at the end, we met the code, but we made it look worse.
And
Does
just,
that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you guys?
No, I understand where you're.
and I think just for clarification, we weren't saying that the whole entire building needs to be redone. Just the parts that you're gonna
We've
be
changed.
adding suites and openings are gonna be either closed or made. That's what's gonna have to then comply. There's a lot of stuff that's already there. You're not gonna take down the whole building and redo the whole building. And we understand that. It's more the parts that are going to change are gonna have to meet the standards. And you're gonna have to figure out a creative way to make those blend. You know what I mean? That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next one? All right, thank you, guys. Okay, so, again, for planning comments, the parking area, will need to comply with chapter 304 of the Porterville Development Ordinance. New parking spaces shall comply with section 304.10 parking area and designs. And for suite B, which is 1,758 square feet, it will require 6 parking stalls for instructional services that is being proposed. The standard parking space size and aisle width, 45-degree parking shall be 9 feet wide and 20 feet deep. One-way aisle shall be 15 feet wide. The perimeter curbing 6 inches wide.
Yeah, but that's only gonna be for the new ones, right?
Oh,
You guys
yeah.
already have 6
You
that are
guys-
there, correct?
Yeah, this.
Yeah, can we go back to the,
We should have had pictures of.
Yeah,
the
no,
new-
I'm
yeah.
pretty positive you guys have
Okay.
6 spaces, right?
There's.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
a lot of these new stalls will get triggered when you start adding more stuff.
Oh.
So right now, as long as we have 6 for the current use, which is instructional services.
And then
it
at
will
that
be
point
okay.
as well, I don't know if you remember what we were talking about, when it becomes mixed use, you have to get the conditional use permit. And that's gonna go to council. So at that time, you could also, if it becomes too much parking, you can also request that you have a conditional use permit to reduce the parking, if that's a factor. But at the moment, you guys have,
Makes sense.
For right now, as long as we have
Oh, yeah.
6 parking stalls for the use that is being proposed. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, guys. Sorry, I haven't been to that area here recently. I
Oh,
just
you're
know that there was repaved. Yeah, thank you. So let me see. And I'll just go over real quick over the landscaping. Right now, it's not being triggered at this point, right? It's until we have any new development in the other suites. Okay, so once that is triggered, once we have the new development in the other suites, then it will trigger the landscaping, which will need to comply with chapter 303. So of that, 10% of the parking lot will need to be landscaped, 25 feet minimum planner dimension, and at least 4 feet wide. The landscaping shall be well distributed throughout, with a combination of planting strips between rows of parking stalls, planting strips between parking areas and pedestrian walkways. The landscape islands at the end of the rows of parking stalls, on-site landscaping at the parking lot perimeter. Okay, also require landscaping islands at least 6 feet in interior dimension and containing at least one 15-feet gallantry at the end of each interior row of parking in between every 8 stalls. Landscape areas adjacent to public streets, parking areas shall be landscaped and must have 6 feet clear of overhang. The landscape buffer on interior lot lines at least 3 feet wide. The trees shall be planted to result in 50% of the parking lot shaded within 15 years.
The question I have on that one was, I love landscaping, so I'd love to do it, but what if there's no space? Like, there's no like landscapes, it's just, I'm just out of curiosity, this is a question like, if there's nowhere to fit.
So we have to
What would happen, because I know it's gonna get tricky eventually.
Actually, I was gonna ask that way, like I said, everyone's time is valuable. It's an existing site, an existing building. Right now, there's just Daniela, the Pilata Studios, that's the only one that we know. Unsure of who's gonna take, suite B, C, and A. We don't know, but right now, this is all that's there. There is no more, so it's kind of one of those things like,
Even when you
Either-
put in that car in there.
yeah, you're gonna make the workers.
You're like going super stoked.
So this will be when we start looking into the conditional use permit, right? That there may be some ways
Will somebody
to
go out there at that
reduce the
time?
parking lot
Oh, okay.
requirements.
Oh, okay, we're
But it's
probably
a
gonna have to,
process
you're
that
probably
we
gonna have to go
can-
through that, yeah.
We'll go
You guys
over.
are gonna have to go
Uh-huh.
through that. We'll help you through that.
We'll go through the
But
process.
right
We'll
now-
start again here at PRC and we'll help you through the process.
Oh, okay, so
To-
there's no,
right.
there's no more to put in, because I wanted, actually, to be honest with you, I really wanted to landscape it.
Mhm.
And I sent a couple buddies that are landscape contractors, and they just told me, just give up that little dream, because I wanted to landscape, and they're like, there's nothing.
Right, but we can look into that, once we go through that process, which will be, triggered once you have new development and the remaining suites.
But to keep it
Mhm.
simple, the ones in front have been there for a long time.
Yes.
That's not gonna have to change because it's called
Mhm.
legal non-conforming, right?
Mhm.
So there's no requirements on these ones right here right now. Or these ones. But as far as these new ones, those, if you're gonna add new spaces, then it's gonna have to comply. So the best thing to do might just be to not have those new ones there because like you said, you may not have room for it. And then we get into all the semantics of debating which spaces can stay, which ones have to have the landscape islands, all that good stuff. So your best bet at the moment is to keep the legal non-conforming parking. And then whenever you get ready to put new tenants in and improve the rest of the building, you're most likely gonna have to improve the parking lot and add new spaces.
So, yeah, what you would do is essentially come in through the conditional use permit requesting council to reduce your required parking and reduce your required landscaping and see if you can design something, provide a proposal that shows the reduction in parking and the reduction in landscaping, but still meeting basically the intent of both. Something has been installed. What that looks like is up to someone with a creative mind.
I have a question that I'm asked Jeff. Jeff, because this is a strange, well, not strange, but it's like a
Restricted.
hard to deal with lot, would it be possible to do like a planned development there?
That's a possibility. I mean, that, I don't.
That would-
not.
Obviously, that wouldn't
That
really need
involves a
room for
little
this.
more, that involves a little more, effort on the part of, a site designer and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's totally possible.
Well, I'm just thinking of like a way that they could possibly create a project that meets the intent where it's something nice, but it's obviously they have to follow some sort of code. And that would there be any other opportunities besides a planned development or a conditional use permit, or what do you think would be the best for them? What?
A development agreement. I mean, then we're getting into more heavy duty stuff, but I mean, yeah, those are all possibilities.
Yeah, so those are just a few ideas for how you guys could.
And in particular, a development agreement offers kind of like the ultimate flexibility. And I don't know that it would be remarkably difficult to do that on a site like this.
Yeah, because obviously we want to maintain the downtown character. It's a cool building. And obviously there's some
He
constraints.
he told me, he goes, I'll put landscaping, we'll set up your landscape, but then you can just eliminate parking. That's what he told me. He goes,
Yeah.
just, I'll put all the landscaping you want. Like, even there were small amounts of little islands, but he said you wouldn't have a parking anymore. Were you okay with that? I said, no, people aren't gonna walk from across town to
Yeah.
across the street. So that's kind of worse.
So our point kind of is that we don't want you to not develop anything, but there's certain ways that you guys are gonna have to get creative, so we're not breaking any rules that we have to follow through our code. Cause if we do it for one person, then we have to do it for everyone else. So there's definitely ways for you guys to get creative. And those are just some of the just suggestions that we,
Yeah, because I did, one thing I didn't note was any off-street parking. I just figured I'm just gonna hold off on that because there is off-street parking along Date Street. That's additional parking. But like you said, once you get to that point, right now we're here.
Mhm.
And I appreciate what you said, and it's great advice. When you get to that, then we'll start looking at options, get creative on what we can truly fit there. But yeah, there's additional, that's not marked in red.
Mhm.
On Main Street, it's mostly red, and it's obvious for the reason. But across the street, it isn't, or right there, that whole strip.
So I do believe there are provisions in the downtown guidelines that do allow for off-street parking. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's opportunities, there's lots of different opportunities, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's just that we can't tell you guys how to design it. We
No.
can just give you the general things you're gonna have to follow, but we can't say, you have to do this, 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 and this, and do it exactly like this.
Yeah, so I purposely left those off just because let's get something in here, because where we're at, where we want to go, let's get it started. We'll start here and
I'm
talk,
just thinking
put it on the
like,
table.
like for me to swing a mortgage payment every month. I gotta move faster than just the sweet for Daniela, so. If I have to do that, I need to move on it right away and figure that out, but there's just no space. I tried to do it, I really wanted to do it. I think I did one right there, one little spot right there, little island, but I would love to add more. I just gotta, like you said, I'll look it over again to see if I can figure something out. And I'll obviously, show it to you guys before.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? No? So let me see. Just the other, a couple of comments from planning. Signs shall comply with chapter 305 for signs. That includes for temporary signage. And then just if you plan on having any events, then we will need to have a temporary use permit application submitted. Other than that, again, these are just generic comments for now. We will have more comments included in the letter out to you, and then whenever you submit for building permit review. Okay,
And we'll send you a PDF of the downtown design
we'll send you
guidelines.
all those links by email. Anything else that you'd like
You guys
to?
appreciate
Okay.
you guys' time.
So that's it for planning. We can go ahead and move on to engineering comments with Javier.
So just a last question,
Yeah.
so regarding that, like, for example, Daniela's here because she's the first potential tenant that's gonna be there. Putting a Pilates studio would not affect anything that she could potentially be the first one to start with a building permit to start that. So the facade portion would be, that's the first part that actually happens
Right.
phase wise. Or if for cost purposes, it's best to submit for the whole thing to get taken care of, because the contractor comes one, finishes it off, and he's gone. That way you're covered. So it could be submitted, like you said, getting creative to financially, get it taken care of and to submit, so it takes care of everyone's wants and needs and you go from there, but
So for this is where the Pilates is, right?
yes.
So I believe that we had discussed with some of the other planners that if you're not proposing any facade like renovations or changes, then obviously we're not
Then it
gonna
can
have
remain.
any comments about it.
Okay.
But
Section.
it's the part where you're proposing the facade changes that's gonna need to comply. And then if you change that, then the rest of the building kind of has to match in certain ways as far as colors. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna make you do every single thing that you do on there on every part of the building, but like just make it match.
Got it.
or be architecturally compatible is what the word we use. And the creative part is probably gonna come more from the parking and landscaping issues. And that's gonna be like Jeff was saying, maybe a development agreement or something where it's like there's certain ways that you can say, hey, we wanna build a project that is gonna serve the community. This is how it's gonna serve the community. Can we then have reductions or this, that, and the other? And then at that point, that's entered to by city council. So that's what how we were saying with like the codes. Like even then, we're not gonna be varying the codes. It's gonna be council that's gonna say, hey, this development is, we agree to this, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's understandable because it is a tough site.
Yeah.
And like, for example, even refuge trash cans, where do you put them? Aesthetic, you don't want them sticking out there like a sore thumb. So I ended up sticking them back to where the general, yeah,
We'll be there in a bit.
yeah.
You know what's funny, you guys wanna know a crazy story, I'll tell you, they, there's a place called Main Street Athletics.
Mhm.
They built, I guess, the new law that passed by, California passed, where they want the blue can, the whole thing, they did 3 big bins, right? The other day, he sent me a photo, and it was shredded documents in a plastic bag, he goes, this is all we put in 2 weeks. It was 3 big old monster bins, and I know it's none of us here, but he's like, he goes, this is more for like a hometown buffet. He showed me he sent me a snapshot, he goes, there's no reason to have this big old structure thing.
Yeah, all new development, yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny, but I just said, oh, well, you know what I mean?
Call the governor.
Yeah,
Yeah, we heard the same thing as soon as that started.
yeah.
Okay, I believe, so that was, yeah, so that was all for planning. We'll move on with Javier for engineering.
All right, so I know the application says change in occupancy, but will it be, as I'm hearing the discussion, the construction will be like space by space?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, because there's a lot of unknowns.
The building on the far right, the one on the south is, there's nothing to change there. It's just a warehouse. It's pretty much ready for release. The other ones are the suites that we're building to the left.
Mhm.
Those are the ones, the
Yeah.
A through, or ABC or whatever.
Right. Okay. And right now it's all just one big facility.
No, there's actually partition walls in between each section.
Mhm.
So there, I think it's the grid lines that put,
Okay.
there we go.
See that, Javier?
I see the street view.
Now, let's see, new share. This is the floor plan.
Oh, okay.
So
Hmm.
grid line 3 and 4, those are 2 interior walls that are existing.
Mhm.
So it separates and then I have a dashed wall that potentially, if they wanted to separate suite D and C, that could be a potential area, or like I said, that would fall into tenant improvements.
Okay. But the one thing I'll need to look into, and I will include in the comments, is seeing where the utilities are. And if this will be portioned off into their each individual business, there may be a need to have individual services for each, and like water and sewer. And so
Okay.
I'll look into that. And then again, depending on the construction valuation of each suite, the threshold for engineering to review, and our scope is mainly like in the street and where the curb gutter and sidewalk is. If the valuation isn't over 28,000 and change, we wouldn't have any requirements. That if the construction exceeds that, then we'd start taking a look and seeing if say pieces of concrete are broken that need to be replaced, or if sidewalk didn't exist, it would have to be poured in, and things like that. So If this is solely for change of occupancy, we'd have no comment until the development of each suite comes in. And then it's dependent on cost. So that's all the engineering would have.
Did you have any comments for engineer? No? Okay, thank you, Javier. We can move on to fire. Clinton?
So, like everybody says, a lot of this is what's proposed. The fire code, again, with the occupancy change dictates certain things. I don't know what you want to put in those other suites, but if you were to put anything in there, say mercantile wise, like a store that sells things, right? If you were to put in anything in there like a restaurant or a bar or anything like that, those things are automatically going to trigger fire sprinklers in them because of the size. The size exceeds 12,000 square feet. The Pilates studio that's going in there, while it's a gym, much like Main Athletics and the others, it does not have an occupant load exceeding 50 persons. So it can actually be downsized or degraded to what is considered a B occupancy or a business. So an A3, if the whole thing was going to be a gym, then we would require fire sprinklers. Because it's a B, it doesn't need to. If it expands, if you open up a wall to take up the other suites, or business gets booming, then you move into one of the other suites, that could be the trigger point. However, as a business owner, by sprinklering the building, if you do it now, you give yourself more options to attract more opportunities to come in and rent the space. And so right now, based on what you're proposing, I'm going to say sprinklers aren't required, but if somebody comes in, like even with a business license for one of those other suites that triggers it, you'd have to put sprinklers in at that time.
On both.
On everything, the whole building,
The whole building.
because the fire code reads fire.
Yeah.
Right, and so that whole building is considered a fire area.
Kind of like the project before this one.
Okay.
So, yeah, so there's no way you can sprinkler a portion of a building without. I mean, the expense of area separation walls would be astronomical.
So for example, on grid line 4, from 4 to 5, that in itself is like one building. It's a block wall. From 4 to 5, doesn't matter. I was curious on that, so that's good.
That may be an occupancy separation. That is not an area separation.
Got it.
They are two completely and distinct definitions.
Okay. No,
And the construction is completely different.
got it. Okay, that makes sense.
So essentially that, you'll need to comply with fire extinguishers in the existing suite. You'll need to have the address posted where it contrasts, it's visible, minimum of 4-inch letters visible from the street. If you're gonna do suites, it would just be the address with the suite. And pretty much that's it. Knox access, which the property owner can order the Knox box potentially we might end up getting 2, depending on how you orient these suites. We may put one that is for, like, say, the southernmost in the Pilates suite. We put it on that face of the building. And then if those other 2 have entrances that face like Date Street there, we may put another box for those 2 there in the future. Again, a lot of this depends on what you're going to do, right? As you proceed, and it may behoove you to go ahead and start getting bids and say, hey, because like with everything else, inflation and cost of materials and everything, they just continue to go up. It may be now's the time to sprinkler it. So we can, hey, we got a fully sprinklered suite. We've got a lot of options as far as attracting tenants versus we're not going to be sprinklered. We're pretty much limited to business offices. That's pretty much all you can attract.
Okay.
And then, then it also it determines on the occupant load. Once you show those tenant improvements, the layout, the square footage, what the building official determines the occupant load is. Once the fire area occupant load exceeds a certain amount, that could trigger fire sprinklers as well. So there are key trigger points that may come up. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that, right? Second exits, travel distances, a lot of that we don't know right now. You don't know right now.
Until we get.
But again, by saying, hey, as part of this, one of the phases, we're gonna go ahead and sprinkler the building. then you know moving forward, you got a lot more options
Yeah.
for your tenants.
No, it's great.
For the Pilates suite, does that one exit comply right now for that square footage?
Did you have an occupant load,
Not,
for
well,
that?
Well, actually, I'm taking both of them right here. So, Garrett, can you zoom in, please? Sorry.
Yeah, it's both of
You know
those.
where-
suites. It's just one suite.
So I don't know if it's suite B.
It's
or
suite
where's
B and C.
at?
2 and 4?
B and C.
Okay,
So
so yeah, so
you're- You're now taking up this and this?
no, I'm taking up, you see there we
That one
go.
there?
That one and then C,
the one
so next
So
door.
you are gonna build this wall?
No, it's
Not right
that was
now.
just a proposal.
Not right now.
Not right now.
Oh, so in the future, you're gonna expand? What are we talking?
She's already gonna take.
Yeah, so basically those two suites are mine. And I believe what Jesse was trying to say is that number 10, the wall that he's trying to build there, that wall, yeah. That is just in case, because he thought it would make more sense to the city to follow that protocol of just cutting it clean there instead of going at an angle to where it would cut in with the office.
What I'm asking right now, though, is that wall existing physically right
No,
this second?
it's
This
not.
is all open.
Yeah, it's all
This is
over.
all open. So then that changes things about the size of your studio and the requirements, the occupant load and everything else.
How do you
Okay.
take suite D without it being cut off to suite D?
You
The-
you would construct a wall there going up, right? So going sideways, like where 10's at, you'd be cutting off.
Right off the
But
corner.
you're saying that you have suite C. Right?
You're already
Right.
occupying.
No, it's a
Going
potential,
to.
it's a
What-
potential,
what-
yeah.
So right now, the plan is. we'll
But
get past-
basically, we're just focused right now on C because with me, I'm only able to afford staying at Suite B right now.
So,
So Alex just has that potential in me to develop into the other side.
so right now,
You know, yeah.
If you're gonna do it, just do it for the later on, just. You're
Well-
take B and C.
Because then that changes.
That
We have to
might-
calculate the occupant.
That might go from a B to an A3.
Because of the
that'll
square
be-
footage and occupancy.
Your occupancy load, and then,
Yeah.
once it does that,
it changes everything.
automatically A3, you're sprinklering the building, just like the other guys, you're sprinklering the building. So
As opposing if I just stayed in.
right now, if you stayed on what we're looking at right there, what's proposed, and you stay there right now, that is not the trigger point.
Yeah.
I don't trigger anything, I'm staying in that spot.
So right now, what's on the table is B.
Yeah.
Correct.
C, D, and A.
Okay, cause she just said a second ago, I'm taking suite
Yeah.
C too, so we're like, whoa.
It's just out there like that potential
Yeah,
of
or growth.
But,
of growth.
but understand, if you do decide that, that is your
Fire
trigger
spring,
point.
yeah.
You're now triggering
Getting ahead
So,
of myself.
Which
Yeah,
is why I'm telling you, it may behoove you just to do it, and then if you wanna do that, all you're basically doing is, after that point is,
The rest.
and under that building permit, you could put that wall in and it's sprinklered and it's done and.
100%. So what happens is you're running your shop Monday through whatever it is. But then you get to the point where it says, you know what? On Tuesday, you decide you want C. Well, then Thursday, you decide you have to sprinkle the whole thing. So
Yeah.
you're not gonna run your class for a month or two until you get all the sprinkler system. So that's why he's saying now's the time to do it, or
Yeah.
don't, or don't.
Well,
don't-
and that also, if you know you're gonna potentially take C,
Mhm.
they can start looking for tenants in D and then A, that big one,
Right.
of, hey, we now are marketing a sprinklered structure for a tenant improvement, bring us a restaurant, right? Bring us, a mercantile, bring us whatever, it's ready to go, right?
Yep. Yep.
And we're not saying today that if you take suite, it's gonna be an A3. You would have to propose to us.
And do the
occupant
calculation.
And do the occupant load, and we're not the designers, we're just the plan reviewers.
Right.
But you're bringing it up to like,
Okay.
hey,
So
potentially this is
before
the
you
direction you're going.
sign for suite C, have him propose something to
Okay.
you, and it might work, you know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
what keeps you at the B instead of the A3 is an occupant load less than 49.
Yeah.
Well,
Let me write
49
that
or less.
Yeah.
Right? That's not how many people are there or how many people show up, it's how many people could be
Could be,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, based on the math.
Yep.
So again,
And James, how many would that be for Suite B only?
it'd be a calculation based on the square footage that's
Square
going up
footage.
there,
Mhm.
yeah. And that table is in the building code. You'd
Okay.
be able to pull that table, he can do the math and tell us in suite B, he could tell us, he could still, I mean, just depending on the math, maybe suite B and suite C as proposed is still 48 people,
Right.
right? We don't know that. I'm just telling you, I can tell you if that wall is not there and you took that whole L shape plus suite B, you're looking at the occupant load now is going to crest that and you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So, but like I said, if you decide, hey, we're gonna sprinkler it, let's start getting bids, we know we wanna do this. Pull the sprinkler permit, throw that in there that you're gonna do that wall to separate those two. And then start advertising like, hey, we got sprinklered suites ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, it gives you a lot more flexibility, you know, a corner store, for example, could go in there, right? Mercantile done, sprinkler, you know, a restaurant could go in that other side, a bar, whatever, like, hey,
It's ready.
it's ready to go, come in. I mean, they would have to do tenant improvements like, you know, Ansel system, right?
Yeah.
Tied to the fire, that kind of stuff. But I mean, who knows what they're.
Potential's there. So, no, perfect.
Those are all the comments for,
Yeah.
okay.
So
For building.
for the proposed floor plan that you have now, for ADA restrooms, I don't see anything in suite B right now.
So what we did with this, I showed you existing. There's no need to, show you something basic that's not, there. I wanted to show you what's existing. So what we're proposing was because it's there, we would end up making the two restrooms right on the bottom to an ADA. We would eliminate one of them and create one ADA restroom that is gonna be accessible for the building. Because there's just no room anywhere for anything. So this, even though it's finished, we would have to open it up and create an ADA restroom. And the other thing that we did talk about, I think somebody mentioned about, it was Javier, regarding the electrical, we would end up creating, we looked at the electrical where it could come in, it would be somewhere in that area, potentially seen for the future improvements. But that's roughly where it would end up in the ADA.
So, and that would work for her business because it's a B and it's less than 49 people. The code allows one unisex, but once you start getting into all these other suites and the occupant load goes over the total of that 50, then
So for example, D has plumbing in the far corner on 1 and C. Up in that corner, there's existing plumbing there, but I didn't show it there because I don't know, like you said, could be a kitchen. I don't know, so I'm not sure where, but potentially the potential is that there could be another ADA bathroom there. And then the same token, grid line C and 5 on the far south corner, that one would become an ADA too.
Okay.
So those, but I left them as is.
well, I just wanted to bring it up
Yeah, no, that's
for
perfect.
you know,
Future-
context on
yeah.
thinking ahead.
Yeah, no, that crossed my mind when I saw it and I said, you know what, I'll start with what's there to make it easy for everyone to see. And with intention this is what we're gonna have to do. So those are, yeah, so we kind of kept that in mind. And unfortunately, you know, what's there is gonna have to be demoed out to create the ADA accessibility.
And just to be clear for planning, whenever you get a different use in there, it is a commercial or it is a mixed use district, but you still need to get the conditional use permit approved by city council.
Yes,
For
each phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not for each phase, you can do, once you do one, you can, like 2 different uses, you can get a conditional use permit for all of it. You probably would have to amend it in the future, but doing a modification to just whatever, once, let's say it comes in 2025, it's number 13, whatever it is, you would just keep amending that to then include suite C, suite D, and then so on and so forth.
It's even better. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
so you wouldn't have to get a new one every single
Yeah.
time, I don't
Oh.
believe. It'd just be modifying the existing one.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, because I asked that question out there and I was still unclear, so that makes complete sense what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So what is the approximate valuation for this first tenant
B,
space?
We're not sure. We haven't calculated.
yeah, well, general contracts are here, and I think we're still in the point where what I laid out was basically, what Daniela explained as far as equipment goes, how she would, go with classes. So I just wanted to do a layout roughly, so you can kind of see that potentially per class, there maybe only be 10 people in there at one time. And as far as the cabinetry, the finish, I don't know. She has pictures and stuff, but I don't think they've gone as far as that point to figure out.
Yeah,
this
and
whole round.
equipment and stuff, we don't include
No,
in
what-
the
no,
evaluation.
It'd be like the changing that bathroom to the ADA, any electrical improvements, you
Got
know,
it.
that kind of plumbing improvements, that kind of stuff.
Well, for Javier, I'm
No,
gonna
but-
say it's under $28,000.
$27,900.
Yeah, so, it's just under
Very,
that.
very minimal.
You know, 'cause-
Majority of the stuff that's already there, so.
Cause technically, when you look at ADA upgrades, it's based off of the valuation of the project. 20% of the valuation goes to ADA upgrades, and it actually starts with path of travel from the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So-
And if the site meets ADA requirements, then.
Well, there's steps in the code, so if you already meet step one, that doesn't mean you're good. You would have to, the code's trying to get buildings up to, current ADA as much as it can. So there's steps on.
Being the compliance.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions for building? No, okay. We can go ahead and move on to field services with Brianna.
For this one, I think I would give you the option of putting in a 3-bin enclosure or commercial can service, but each suite would need their own service. And those commercial cans would need to be set out on Date Street for service.
And just to clarify, commercial cans is a residential can. It's just a different fee, right, Bree?
Correct.
And then if you guys, but one thing with planning, if you guys do have commercial cans,
It
they
would need to
still
comply
have
with
to
the
be stored somewhere out of
Out of-
screen, out of sight.
Yeah, so that's why I ended up, right now it doesn't exist, but I showed it where the general tire signs at. There's a lot of concrete back there. There's an existing fence. I figured we can landscape, create a buffer, and the residential cans or the commercial cans you mentioned would go back there. I just showed 3, but there's plenty of room to fit. Or there's that small pathway in the back that each one could also, but yeah, it's tight. It's tight, so it would be based off per unit, each one has to have 3?
Correct.
Okay,
There may be some, and that's something I'm gonna have a conversation with the state about Friday. But there may be, depending on your landscaping and the type of service, there may be an organics waiver that we can get some of these businesses, so they don't have to have the full 3 set.
Brian, I have a question for you. If they were to do a 3-bin, where would they be allowed to do it if they wanted to? Cause they could use that for the whole center, correct?
Yeah, so the bins would be shared between all of the suites, whereas the can service would be, each tenant would be responsible.
There would be no room for it.
So where would they be able to put one if they decided that's what they wanted to do?
In the street.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't know where it would go.
Ridiculous.
My first idea was on Date, right there at the corner, but I'm afraid that that's gonna block visibility for Main Street.
I had a question, like, if there's no landscape in a sense, like, there's no green, it's all, like, let's say we do like artificial plant. Do you still need the green one?
No, and that's why I'm saying it would be
Or
dependent
think you
on
just
what
all 3
tenants.
black? Maybe just go all 3 black and then that would be simpler.
Yeah, I think unless you did a restaurant.
I
restaurant
can-
may
I
require-
think-
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if it's
okay.
just office spaces, I don't see you, or and the gym, you know, I don't see you needing a green one, so I could give you a waiver for that.
Oh,
But
okay.
you
Okay,
would still
thank you.
need the black and the recycling, because those, I mean, all three are state mandated, but they did provide a waiver for the organics.
Okay, cool.
And to just kind of, so realistically, the only space that you can really put something where you can buffer it is on the far south side. And maybe when we get to that point, there's an agreement that someone, let's just call it the site manager, will roll them out to Date Street so they can be picked up there on the appropriate dates.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be good with them on date just because there is that extra space in the travel lanes. Whereas Main Street, it's red curbed, and I really don't want my truck stopping on Main Street like that. And there's also, you know, there's residential service behind you also.
Yeah,
So
so
there
no,
will be a truck there anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense. We'll store them where they're hidden away from the homeless, because you don't want homeless going through there constantly. They'll be locked up. And then when the day comes, say it's Monday or Tuesday, they'll roll them out to Date Street, put them on the far northeast corner back there. That way the truck will roll up. It's not close to the corner. Pick it up and then they go. And then we'll
Perfect.
just put them right back.
That works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But Brianna, what happens if they do sprinkler the building and get a restaurant in there? And now the state's not gonna waive that green bin, right?
Correct, but that would be then on that tenant to pay for the green can. So
Yeah.
if each suite
Okay.
has their own set, then, I mean, I can give waivers for as they kind of come in. But if a restaurant decides to come in, then they would not receive a waiver.
But they could still use the commercial residential bin?
Yeah, and I mean,
Okay.
depending on how big the restaurant is. We have some restaurants who completely fill the green bins, and we have some that don't have hardly any food waste. So it would just depend on the restaurant.
We'll make sure the restaurant's there. Doesn't serve any veggies.
It's all food scraps, so.
That's it.
Thank you,
Bread and
Brianna.
water?
That's it,
You
Brent.
guys have any other questions for field service?
No, it makes sense what she's
Okay.
asking.
Thank you. For water department with Robert?
As Javier mentioned earlier, water meters and backflow devices will be needed for each of the suites once they're constructed. You also need a separate water meter and backflow device for the landscaping. This way, the customer is only billed for wastewater entering the sewer system. I think those are
What-
comments.
The way they built the property, they only have one meter that goes through the whole building.
So, Robert, are you able to hear Alex? There's a question regarding that.
Yes, go ahead.
Robert just say that the building, it only has one meter throughout that takes in, and what we were thinking is it was gonna be kind of a part of the lease with all tenants, just one bill.
I could check on that but my understanding is everything has to be separate when it's a commercial property, and it has to be a backflow device.
No, because that would be a lot of, I don't know, infrastructure that you guys would have to do on the streets and stuff.
I mean, I can just minimize it to conclusion.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. We'll see. I'll get with the water department. We'll go over that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Now with Joe for streets.
No comments from street department.
Okay, thank you. I believe that
I think
concludes.
David Payne joined.
Oh, David Payne joined at the end.
Okay.
David, did you have any comments to provide?
Yeah, just on what Robert was talking about, he's He's right in that aspect. It's just, it goes back to what Javier said, you know, if they do get split off and they are different services, then each one would need its own meter and backflow. So we could address that at that time.
Sorry, does that depend on the occupancy? Like for Pilates, if she doesn't need water in her suite, would you require her to do a backflow system?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So for the first suite, the first tenant that's gonna hopefully move in, it's a Pilates place where it's, you know, she's not gonna utilize water or need water for the Pilates suite. Would you require a backflow system?
No, she doesn't have
The
any.
restrooms are gonna
plumbing.
be, you know,
Restrooms are gonna be for her suite.
one for her suite.
Who's saying for the plumbing?
For the plumbing.
They need internal access or can it be accessed from the side?
That's what they do.
You can go outside.
to access.
So David, right now,
Then
they're,
we'd have to knock the building down,
Yeah, that.
to build all the.
Because the restrooms are gonna be internal, right, as far as entering the restroom.
Yeah,
Wow,
well, because
outside the
it's
building.
only with that suite that's open and that suite's gonna be the one.
It's being paired up for that restroom.
Essentially for that restroom, yeah, because
Because of the sink, because of
the sink and then flushing the toilet bowl and that kind of stuff, you know.
Cause there's only one sewer, then there would have to be like 4 sewers and stuff like that. That'd be insane.
Well, it goes back to where, building was talking about depending on the occupancy use, where you're at as far as what you need for the ADA, because the ADA is gonna really control that. This one bathroom may not be enough for suite B, C, and D, so we may have to add something over there. But right now, like you're saying, there's existing bathroom, there's existing meter, so right now, we're just really looking at one building per se.
And you design this as
And
you
it
design
dissolves,
what you're doing.
yeah.
Any other comments, David?
No, I think that covers it for now.
Okay, thank you. Did you have?
David, how would you figure it? Like, if you had this building, how would you figure it out?
I would say-
1950s.
I would say for now, I mean, you can just install.
Like
one
that sounds
backflow.
like it sounds like a $300,000 hit. To me.
I would say for now, you could just install one backflow device, which is probably $300 to $500 right at the water service to protect the city's water system from any plumbing that's going on there at this time. And then as they split up or there's different services needed, then you could
They're
adjust that.
they're
as
splitting
it goes.
up from day one, in a sense, day one, they were gonna be split, so we can like, you know, advertise them for lease. So we would have to do it from day one, because the only way the building's gonna work to make a mortgage payment on it, it was for me to advertise the spaces, so they would have to be leased out immediately. I'm talking about within a month or two. Cause the Pilates wouldn't be able to, you know, cover my mortgage, so I would be responsible for plumbing to go out throughout the building and then 4 sewage lines. Is that kind of where you guys are going with this? Cause it would kind of bomb my deal.
You know, I'd have to fall back on Javier to see whether they need 4 different service lines. All I'm saying is you need a backflow device on the water service that's there,
Okay,
which is a simple task, just getting that installed, and then
If he can,
city's water system
if
will
he
be
can
protected.
call me, if he can call me and kind of give me like the best way to take care of that.
Yeah, that's
Questions? Okay.
Yeah, we can, we'll take a look through our files. I know it's been our standard, as long as I've been here, but I know, you know, with older buildings that maybe there's different ways we can approach them just because of, you know, their age or how long improvements have been. So,
Okay.
let us do some research and discussion here internally, and we can get you a better answer, see if there's something that can help
Okay,
utilize what's there or try and keep it at a minimum without going the full extent of separate services for everything.
okay, thank you.
And to be honest, I think there's 2 water meters on this property. One on Date Street and one on Main.
Okay, that's definitely helpful, and we'll take a look at the size, and I can take or discuss with our water department, look at how large the lines are for them, and see if that that can help in your favor.
Okay.
Any other questions for David? I believe that's all the departments, right?
By
Joe, did we,
No.
Did he say no comment?
he said no comment?
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah. Okay, so, any other comments or questions for any other departments?
Jared,
So-
you did mention that I would have to get the form from here, right, if I wanted to do like,
Temporary use permit?
yeah.
Yeah, no,
You're gonna-
so like you're doing a grand opening.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a pop-up event right
Yeah.
before I open the
That'd be
skate
a,
track.
that'd be a temporary use permit.
Okay,
Yeah, I can get you one.
thank you.
Okay,
And then a temporary sign permit, if you're gonna put a temporary sign, and a building permit, if you're gonna put a permanent sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did already contact, to city, but they said that they would have to rearrange the format of the building since it's a tire shop. They would have to put it as like a gym in order for me to get like the.
That's what we're doing through
That's
this
the
process.
meeting.
That's
Through
what
this
we're here for
process?
today.
Okay.
What we're doing here is officially noticing you that upon change in occupancy, there could be triggers of all of this stuff, right? If he was to say, market it to a tire shop and just open it back up as a tire shop, it would be a tire shop.
Okay.
okay. So, you'll receive these comments in a letter in about 2 weeks. And we'll provide more details in that letter, with the comments that were presented here. So we can go ahead and conclude this meeting today at 3:06 p.m. Thank you. We wish to see this project move forward
Quick question on the, I know so it's 2 weeks, we're still
Go
moving
ahead.
forward.
and the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, everyone.
The sewers, we're still.
Yeah, those-
So. Thank you.
Stop.
Thank you. Y'all should.